So, Angela Rayner, OK, now it gets serious. Deputy Prime Minister, of course, who's confessed that newspaper reports that she did not pay enough tax when she bought an £800,000 flat were accurate. The Deputy Prime Minister saved up to an estimated £40,000 by not paying a rate of stamp duty that does apply to second homes when she bought the flat in Hove. Rayner says it's because, and her explanation is quite important, she was advised she didn't count as the owner of her primary residence, which is the family home in her Greater Manchester constituency, which is considered her main residence for other purposes and is where she regularly lives with her children under a sharing agreement with her now ex-husband. And that is because she sold her stake in the house. And she sold it to a trust established in 2020 for her teenage son who has lifelong disabilities, and she sold it after she got divorced. So you may say, blimey, that's a bit complicated. Fundamentally, she says she got the wrong advice. The advice turned out to be incorrect, and here she is just speaking to Beth Rigby for Sky News.
With all of the media reports that have been coming out, I took expert counsel advice on all of my affairs to ensure that everything was done proper, and that expert counsel said that the advice that I received was inaccurate. Right. Because of the trust. I don't own the property, that is true. I only own one property that is mortgaged, like most people. But because of the nature of the trust that was set up by the court, that I would be liable to pay the additional stamp duty. I've been in shock, really, because I thought I'd done everything proper and I'd relied on the advice that I received. And I'm devastated because I've always upheld the rules and always have done and always felt proud to do that.
Well, during the interview, the Deputy Prime Minister was also asked if she had considered resigning.
I spoke to my family about it. I spoke to my ex-husband, who has been an incredibly supportive person, because he knows that all I've done is try and support my family and help them.
Do you think your position, Angie Rayner, even though you've explained it, do you think it's sustainable? Do you think you can carry on as particularly Housing Minister?
Well, I made a mistake based upon the advice that I relied upon, that I received at the time, and a leading expert has now said that advice was wrong. I think hopefully most people can see if you rely on advice given to you by lawyers and you follow that process and then you find out that that process is wrong and that advice was wrong, I'm rectifying it at the earliest opportunity. People make mistakes, but I conducted myself in trying to do the right thing, and I hope that people can see that.
Later in the House of Commons, the Prime Minister stood by his second-in-command.
He's gone over and above in setting out the details, including Mr. Speaker, yesterday afternoon, asking a court to lift a confidentiality order in relation to her own son. She has now referred herself to the independent adviser. That is the right thing to do. But I can be clear, I am very proud to sit alongside a Deputy Prime Minister who is building 1.5 million homes, who is bringing the biggest upgrade to workers' rights in a generation, and who's come from a working class background to be Deputy Prime Minister of this country.
However, the Tory leader Kemi Badenoch demanded that Starmer give Rayner the axe.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure we would have heard all that sympathy if it was the Conservative Deputy Prime Minister who was being attacked. I remember when the Prime Minister said that tax evasion is a criminal offence and should be treated as all other fraud. If he had a backbone, he would sack her.
Tax evasion would be a crime if that's what she's done. I'm going to go to Albie first while you think about what you've heard. Albie, serious?
Yes, I think this is incredibly serious. And actually, given how Angela Rayner treated a lot of Conservative cabinet ministers when they were in power, and their conduct was not always of the highest order, and I was critical of them at the time as well. Given the way that Angela responded to people like Nadeem Zahawi, who didn't pay allegedly enough tax, calling on people to resign, saying things like, well, it's one rule for them, another rule for us. I think it just really smacks in the face. Labour said they were going to stop this sleaze, but let's look at what's happened in Labour's first year in office. They've had an anti-corruption anti-corruption minister accused of corruption in Bangladesh, a homelessness minister who allegedly made their tenants homeless in order to get some new tenants in that would be paying more rent, a transport secretary who was accused of fraud, and now a housing secretary who has not paid enough property taxes.
So
that is sleaze. And they said they were going to eradicate it. They've not done it.
OK, is it sleaze in Angela Rayner's case?
No, I think she's been the victim of bad advice. And,
but it's not, clearly Hove isn't her primary residence. I mean, anyone
but
can see that.
that's because she's choosing to live with her new partner.
No, but she's living in her constituency. That's what she says.
Well, it's quite complicated. Because if you,
I don't think it is.
Well, it is. If you read what's come out since, is that she lives there for some of the time with her children to give them stability, and she lives somewhere else. She actually lives in Westminster.
But she said that her main residence is in her
I still think
constituency.
this comes down to the fact that if I'd taken legal advice, I would assume that legal advice to be correct, and I would have acted on that. Now, I think what she's done now, she's being transparent now, and she's asked for this to be investigated. I don't, for 1 minute, imagine it'll be a long, drawn-out investigation. I think it'll be very quick, and the result of which will dictate Angela Rayner's future.
Well, will it? No, but the investigation has got nothing to do with it, has it? It's to do with how people feel about the fact that the Housing Secretary herself avoided £40,000 in stamp duty. She should have paid.
But it's about whether it was deliberately avoided.
Well, clearly it was deliberately, but you think she shouldn't have known she had to pay it?
I think she asked the question, and because she didn't own the property in Manchester, that legal expert has given her the wrong advice. I mean, I think you have to look at the situation, the complexity of the family situation and that trust fund. Now, I know nothing about trust.
No, I understand.
I'm never going to be in a position to have one or to be, I'm just never going to, I just don't understand the trust fund. But for some reason, that was wrapped up. That was under confidentiality clause. Now that's been lifted, and people are able to access the information as to why what happened.
I wonder why she says her main residence for council tax purposes is Ashton.
I can't answer that question.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Seems strange, doesn't it?
She's on the deed as well of the property in Ashton-under-Lyne,
She doesn't
I believe.
actually own the property. She says she doesn't.
You talk about trust funds and it not being something that you are used to, and I think a lot of viewers will feel exactly the same way. If we were talking about Rishi Sunak's trust fund and something going wrong with the trust that he had set up for his child, do you think you would give him as much grace as you've given Angela Rayner?
I've never actually called for anyone to resign under any circumstances.
But do you think you would?
I think there are always extreme circumstances in many cases which lead people to do things which are not necessarily...
I take your point. You don't do that. However, she does. And we've got a tweet here. I think this might be the Nadeem Zahawi one.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at this. His story about his tax affairs doesn't add up. After months of denial, the truth emerges. His position is untenable. He must be dismissed. His response, let's see, from this morning, did you think about my children? Angela Rayner breaks my heart seeing anyone distressed about their children, but the hypocrisy really does hurt. So that's quite a bruising response from him. And I think... I don't know whether she can be dismissed because Deputy Leader of the Labour Party is not in Keir Starmer's gift. She's been elected to that position. However, the Telegraph has made the running on this story. Where it is going now, I would predict, is into this issue of the money for the Hove flat came from compensation paid after her son had some sort of accident within the NHS. She then sells her part of the Ashton house to her son's trust and is paid using that money. Now, there will be people who say you shouldn't do that either.
Well,
because if that's her son's money from a compensation agreement, you can give him the Ashton house. You can't be selling it and taking the money.
but that's a moral question, isn't it? That's a separate question to this.
Politics is all about moral questions, isn't it?
But I'm not going to answer.
I just think all I'm saying is,
Angela.
you might not disagree with this, it's going to get painful for her. It clearly is already.
Yeah, I'm not going to preempt what...
No,
She should
resign. All right.
She should just resign. We're just before Labour conference. If this drags on for much longer, it's going to completely overshadow Labour conference. I think you and I will both agree that this Labour government needs a reset, and this Angela Rayner issue is just taking away from that.
I tell you what Keir Starmer could do. He could make her minister without portfolio, effectively dismissing her as housing secretary. She would still be deputy leader of Labour, and then he's just got to hope it goes away.
Nobody's going to do anything until the inquiry's over.
You sound just like we did when the Conservatives were in power, and we'd be talking about nothing's going to happen until we get the results of the Sue Gray inquiry.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same.
OK,
Carolyn.
all right. It is a hot-button issue right now. You might feel sorry for Angela Rayner. We're asking if Keir Starmer should sack her over her tax row. He defended her at Prime Minister's Questions yesterday, but the Tories, and Albie here, saying it's untenable. She has to go. We've seen this film before. It never gets any better when you're in this state. What do you think? 0207 862 2222. Is Starmer so spineless he won't sack his deputy PM and housing secretary who dodged 40 grand in stamp duty? Did she dodge it? Dodging, evading, sort of loaded words. 0207 862 2222. So let's just have a look. I mean, there's clearly one thing we say about Angela Rayner. She's somebody who exists in three dimensions, rather like yourself, Karen. And these people are precious in politics. Real people. Albie would agree with that. This is the famous picture of her on holiday vaping in a canoe. But the thing is, politics is terribly, terribly lonely when suddenly you get into trouble and you're isolated in the middle of the big blue sea. Her main home is Ashton-under-Lyne. We just discussed this. There's no question. That's what she says. It remains my family home, has been for a decade. It contains the majority of my possessions. It's where I'm registered. It's where I'm on the electoral roll. It's where my children live. It is her main home, there's no question. And then she has another property she spends time in, which is the Grace and Favour apartment in Admiralty House. In Whitehall, she doesn't own it or pay tax on it. Let's just take you to the map here. About 260 miles between Ashton, near Manchester, and the new flat by the sea, which is right on the south coast. Let's trace it down. So we type in Hove. Hove is right near Brighton down there. So 260 miles. And, let's put in a third one. Let's put in Admiralty Arch. So those are her three properties. She only owns the Hove one. 1, 2, 3. Ashton House, Admiralty Flat, Hove Flat. Now, the question is this. If your main home is Ashton, where you pay council tax, how can you pay lower stamp duty on Hove as if Hove is your main home? Her answer is, I don't own Ashton. I passed it to my son. I even took my name off the deeds. Trouble is, with all this explanation, the smoke just increases, doesn't it? Suddenly, we're just enveloped in Angela's smoke here. That's the problem for her. And I know I'm not going to come back to you, Karen. I'll ask you. In the end, we know all the facts. It's not. People say, it's so complicated. It's not complicated. It's about whether actually you pay the extra $40,000 to avoid getting into a row that loses you your job. It's politics, isn't it? This is the game you've chosen to be in. Is it unfair?
I think it's unfair. I think she's a working class woman.
What's
and
that got to do
Why
with
do people go on about this? I don't get it.
I do think that she's being and usually does get a lot of flack.
Yeah. But no one ever says,
she's a woman
he's come up the hard way. He was bullied at Eton. You never hear that.
No.
I mean, everyone's got struggles. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but I still think that comes down to the fact that she took advice because she knew there was an issue. The advice was wrong. And now she's prepared to repair whatever damage have happened. And it's up now to Magnus to decide on her fate.
You are, I would say, one of the MPs most loyal to Keir Starmer. I know you're friends with him. Is there a point at which you say, Keir, for your own sake, drop her?
Keir is the Prime Minister. I'm just his friend. I'm not going to tell him what to do.
Yeah, but come on, a little bit of advice.
No.
You need to get out because otherwise her cigarette's going to set everyone on fire.
Keir will know the right thing to do.
OK. Alexandra is in Somerset. Hi, Alexandra.
Hi, Jeremy.
What do you think of this? I hope we've laid out the facts there.
I absolutely loved your summary. It is simple. It's not complicated. Keir Starmer should ultimately sack her for all of the reasons you've already suggested. But if he doesn't, I just know that this is going to haunt her, and she will forever be known as a tax dodger that wears ill-fitting suits.
I think she dresses really well. Don't you think she's someone? Leave aside the working class thing, but she's sort of a real person. She's three-dimensional.
I admire the working class thing. I don't have a problem with the working class. I'm working class. It's not that. It's the utter hypocrisy and her vitriolic takedowns of anybody who is marginally right-leaning that did anything, from gold wallpaper to, and then you just see I mean, time after time. They've only been in a year, and they're, she accept, I don't know, first-class flights to New York and a
I don't know. I can't remember. I mean, obviously the big one that she had before was some very weird property thing in Ashton, which she was cleared of. But it's to do, I think, maybe, Albie, it's just complexity around these deals, that it's everything she does with property seems to be about maximising profit. Maybe there's nothing wrong with that.
Look, I'm a capitalist.
Minimising tax.
I have no issue with people wanting to be efficient with their finances and making the best of what they have. What I do have an issue with are people like Angela, who criticise the Tories for years for doing exactly what she has been doing, talking about trivial things like the gold wallpaper, as Alexandra in Somerset has just said, telling Nadeem Zahawi he had to resign because of his tax affairs, and then finds herself in exactly the same position, but doesn't do what she would advise herself to do had the shoe been on the other foot.
Thank you,
It's
Alexandra.
hypocrisy.
Well, she's able to make quite a legalistic argument that actually Hove, because she didn't own any other property, and Hove would be the only property she owned, you can therefore call it your primary residence. That's the strangeness of this. That's quite a powerful argument. Peter in Kent, do you think she's given you a good explanation?
No, she hasn't given us a good explanation, unfortunately. I think she will resign.
Yeah.
But most politicians have a past. Kenny Bannock had a past, hasn't she? She has a past of hacking people's computers, which is against the law, as far as I know. And
she has a past of what? Sorry, past of.
It's the law. She hacked Harriet Harman's computer.
Oh yeah. Well, Badenoch was in trouble earlier this week because apparently she said when she was 13 she was offered a place at Stanford. Oh, 16. No, and at Stanford University said we've never offered anyone a place at 16.
No, she wasn't.
Well, we know that. Go on, let's go on.
Nigel, didn't Nigel have a problem in Europe with this spend?
Well, we can't just go through everyone's name and you're asking me what the stories were. Nigel Farage has 5 or 6 houses, but then he's in favour of people having 6 houses, so that's not a problem. But so you seem to be saying they've all done something, so this doesn't matter.
Yeah, Mr. Jenmick did something, didn't he? 40 million quid.
I love this. Is like a quiz. Okay, he sat next to a guy at a dinner, and he subsequently approved a planning bid or something. I mean, yes, yeah. Okay, what's the next one? Give Albie the next one.
No, I'm not going to give Albie anything. Albie.
But listen, are you cross with Rayner or not?
I am. Everybody should be cross with Rayner. That's £40,000.
Well,
of our money.
The irony is, the moment she pays the £40,000 over is the moment she loses her job.
Probably.
Don't you think? Because she should. Don't you think, Albie? If you're her, you say, "I don't owe it, and I'm not paying it."
But she can't do that because she's on the record in the past saying every tax pound that doesn't go to the Exchequer because people are avoiding tax is damaging public services. She said that in response to a Conservative whose tax affairs were not in order. They've spoken about tax evasion being a criminal offence, damaging public services, and then exactly the same thing that she's been so critical of, she does herself.
Okay. She can't say she's not going to pay it, because if the HMRC say she owes it, she's obliged to pay it.
But
she can't
have
not
they said?
pay it.
I don't know if it's HMRC or somebody else saying.
Well,
this.
HMRC are involved. I know she's.
Well, yeah, but I think
HMRC.
what's happened is she's got this story about why she hasn't paid it. Someone close to Keir Starmer said, "You've got to get your story straight here." She goes to another lawyer, and he says, "I think you probably should pay it." And they sort of put the Bunsen burner on her, and then she has to give this tearful interview. So I must say, credit to Keir Starmer's team. They don't hang around, do they? Because they could have let it sort of basically just dribble on. It hasn't.
I'll pass that on, Jeremy.
I'll
pass that on. Well done to his team.
A rare moment of praise. Thank you, Peter. After the break, we're taking more calls on this. Whether Angela Rayner should be sacked, it's clear what's happened, but do you understand why she failed to pay the extra £40,000? 0207 862 2222. Give us calls, and he died recently, I think.
Yeah,
Your calls on whether you think Keir Starmer should sack Angela Rayner after she admitted not paying enough tax on the purchase of an £800,000 flat, which she says is her main home. Oh, what a tangled web we weave. I can't remember the rest of it. John in London, hello.
Jeremy.
John,
Yes.
are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, OK, well,
Definitely.
try speaking into the phone.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Yes. As a Deputy Prime Minister and also a Housing Minister, there is no way she should have thought that she could get away with it. She knows that the papers are after anybody they can find, and this government is now bang in trouble. There's no way he can defend her.
Well,
It's
we've
impossible.
gone. I hope we've been fair to her in that we've given, and Carolyn's here. We've given her version, and you obviously aren't convinced.
Oh, it's a joke, the way they try to defend it. An absolute joke. If it had been a normal person, they'd have been out straight away. But with Starmer, he's got one ally that's good, and that's her.
Oh,
The rest
yeah.
are just followers. No, they're all followers.
Do you think that's right, Albie? That she's the heat shield for Starmer. Once she catches fire, he knows he's going to be burning.
I think that's one way of looking at it, but then also some people who perhaps more in Keir's camp might argue that the main challenger for the leadership, perhaps up until now, would have been Angela Rayner. So maybe this makes Keir Starmer's position a little bit more tenable because it's not obvious who the next leader would be.
Well, Wes Streeting, I think if the one winner here is Wes Streeting. John, and also Rachel Reeves, who's got a little bit of heat off her as a result of this, because she was also
until the budget.
Yeah. John in London, thank you so much. Also in London is Gina. Hi, Gina.
Morning.
What do you think, Gina? No one's really defending her on the show, but you may be about to do that.
Yeah, I don't think it's such a big deal. I don't think she should be sacked. She came out, she said she thinks she's made a mistake. She can easily pay the money back. It's not a big deal compared to the Conservatives, who they were constantly doing fraud, ongoing lying, cheating. She's come out and she says, I've made a mistake.
Gina.
And, she will pay it back.
Yeah, Albie wants a word.
Gina, how can you say that this is the only instance of a Labour politician misbehaving when it comes to their personal affairs? I went through it earlier on. We had a Transport Secretary, Louise Haigh, who was accused of fraud. Rushnara Ali, who was a homelessness minister, who allegedly turfed out her tenants to get new tenants in to pay more.
We've done
and
it.
now Angela Rayner.
But Gina's saying that the Tories were banged to rights on so many more things.
Sorry, there were 4 things that Labour were banged to rights on, so it's not just
Michelle
the Tories.
Mone was not a Labour lord.
No, she was not. She was a
and
Tory lord.
she's an example of something quite bad. But, OK, I'm just saying, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
It also worries me that, I accept what you've said, but every one of them are women, and these have all been stories that have been dug up by the media. What is it the media got against women?
Would you have made the same argument about Michelle Mone?
Yes.
Well, yes, in a way. Yeah.
In a way.
But I think not Nadeem Zahawi. Look at the
digging.
abuse that Matt Hancock gets. Look at the abuse Gavin Williamson got. I don't know if it's a female thing. Hey, listen. Priti Patel, but that supports...
You're right.
That didn't work. That didn't work. So look, we've got so many calls. We'll take loads of calls after the break because we must talk more about Angela Rayner and whether the Prime Minister should sack her. She failed to pay £40,000 on stamp duty that she should have paid. We'll find out what the Chancellor thinks. She's commented since we've been on the air as well. So that's coming next. 0207 862 2222. Front pages here. The Star has Angela blame her because she's blaming her lawyers for giving her the wrong advice. It sounds like a very big sort of... This property purchase doesn't normally have to involve lots of lawyers. But anyway, there's the Sun, 3 pads, 0 excuses. Interesting, the Sun has really got it in for her here. The Mirror normally backs Labour. They've squeezed the story and they're saying she did everything in her children's best interests and they're focusing on Prince Andrew here. I think, yes. More calls on whether Keir Starmer should sack Angela Rayner after she admitted not paying the proper stamp duty. We've mentioned the Prime Minister and some of Rayner's cabinet colleagues have given her their backing as well. So the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has said today she has full confidence in Rayner. Have a look.
Yes, I have full confidence in Angela Rayner. She's a good friend and a colleague. She has accepted the right stamp duty wasn't paid. That was an error. That was a mistake. She is working hard now to rectify that, in contact with HMRC to make sure that the correct tax is paid. Anyone that saw Angela's statement yesterday, saw her interview yesterday, I think we'll have a lot of sympathy with some of the challenging family circumstances around this, around Angela's disabled son.
I mean, that looks like a hostage video.
It really does.
Something very... that to me is she's gone.
The ers. It was.
But also, it's the phrase, yes, I do have full confidence in it. That's not what you say if you're really backing them. You say, Albie's a great guy. No way should he resign. This is rubbish. He's brilliant. You don't say, I have full confidence in Albie. No. So let's see. We can now watch really closely the Wes Streeting clip. I want to see this. Talking to Christian Guru Murthy on Channel 4 News.
She is an honest woman. She's a decent woman. And her motivation at the heart of all of this was making sure that later in life, when she's moved on, when she's passed on, that her children, particularly her son, who's got special educational needs and disabilities, has a sort of security in life that she could only dream of growing up.
She's admitted that she considered resignation. You know, if she'd asked your advice, what would you have said?
I would absolutely have told her not to resign. I think it would have been a travesty, frankly.
Well, that is more...
Believable.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's quite an impressive vote of support there from Wes Streeting. Lynn in Surrey, do you believe that Angela Rayner's just made an accidental slip here?
No, unfortunately. Hello, Jeremy, first-time caller.
Oh, hi, welcome.
Watcher, hello. There's two things going on here, two separate streams. There's the lawyers for the trust and looking after her children. And that is one thing. And then she did own that house 50% with her husband. She has then been allowed, and this is the bit I don't understand, 125k out of the trust, even though I thought they had the ownership.
Yeah.
Even though it does still remain with them because the children are under the age of 18.
Yeah, I know. So this is where it's going to get very painful because people will say she shouldn't be taking money out of the trust as a payment for part of the house. That's not how it should work. But leaving aside all the details, you think she should have known she's got to pay the 40 grand extra on Hove?
Well, yes, because I was going to go on to that because then there's a separate lawyers. And the thing is, I've done that. You get asked an open question. Do you own any more? Do you own any other property? You write it down. And the answer she has written is no.
Well, that's right, though, isn't it?
She doesn't own it.
Well, as Carolyn says, she doesn't own
it. No, it's not. It's incorrect because that house, the Ashton house, is primary residence for council tax, and she still owns it with her ex-husband, even though it's being put in the trust.
No,
the children. The children are under the age of 18.
That's an additional complication. That's fine, because she administers the trust.
But she doesn't own the property. I mean, you haven't got to own the property that you pay council tax in.
But the son is 17, I think, so therefore she is in a...
So why is she having to pay the extra stamp duty if everything that's going on with the Ashton house is kosher?
Because the trust implicates her for the extra stamp duty.
More, isn't it more about politics? It's bigger than that. It's about how it looks, because fundamentally she's told people Ashton is her main home, and then she's told the HMRC Hove is my main home, and you can't. I know that you can get away with it, but not really. Not when you're deputy.
But she doesn't own that property.
I understand, but as Lynn rightly says, if she administers the trust and that the property is owned by the trust, there is a connection.
I don't think she does administer the trust. Well, as an independent, as a legal administrator.
I am unclear about that, because she may have her name on the deeds. You think it's off the deeds?
She hasn't got her name on the deeds. You've already said she hasn't.
Elizabeth in London, hello.
Hello there. Good morning to you.
Look, we've had a doughty defence of Angela Rayner from our panellist Carolyn here.
Well, I totally agree with Carolyn, and I think it's really quite sad. We shouldn't be, and I have to say, I'm not a Labour voter. I'm not particularly a fan of Angela Rayner, but Surely we should be looking at the advisors here, not her. And the other point I wanted to make, if she was a tax dodger, surely she would have purchased the Hove House property into a trust. There's so many adverts.
What you mean
on
for her
social
son?
media.
Or I don't know if you can do that.
No, well, she could. No, but she could. If she was a tax dodger, what you would do is you would have purchased that home in a trust. You wouldn't have done it in your own name. And I think we're going after the wrong here. What we should be doing, and I know from personal experience, you can take legal advice and somebody can sit in front of you and tell you, oh, no, this is quite normal. This is normal business practice. And before you know where you are, if it was happening to me, I wouldn't lose my job. People wouldn't be crucifying me. They would be looking at the lawyers and
Understood.
the advisors.
But you're not the housing
and I
secretary.
Think it's so...
Understood. Okay, I understand.
Well, yeah, but I'm not being... It doesn't matter whether you're the chief executive of a company. It doesn't matter whether you're the prime minister. It doesn't matter even if you're the Pope, who always tries to do the right thing. What matters is the advice that you were given. If you went into hospital and asked a consultant, what should I do? You would take his advice.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you. Denise in Berkshire, what do you think?
I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I think we're accepting corruption in governments, and it's like as though Angela Rayner should be let off this one because of previous corruption with the previous government or corruption with this government.
Corruption is a very strong... I mean, corruption is criminal, right, Denise? So we've got finally to the entrails of this Ashton House. It's her main residence for council tax. However, she has no formal connection. Her name's not on the deeds. It's in her son's trust, whatever. Therefore, when she buys the Hove flat, she can say factually correctly, this will be the only house I own. Now, why is that corrupt?
If you're selling a share into a children's trust, she would be expected to sign papers. She would be expected to understand them, and then she would be expected to sign them. She would also have legal advice about it. The people within the trust would give her legal advice.
Yeah.
Now, it's absolutely ridiculous for her to make an excuse.
I think again, this trust thing is where it's killing us.
But she did have the legal advice, and she acted on that legal advice.
But also, we just come back to it's not.
Every caller that's coming in says that nobody really understands what's gone on. So why would Angela Rayner not have accepted the original legal advice? If we don't understand it, she took legal advice which said she didn't have to pay it.
She's in the Ashton House. It's her main residence for council tax purposes. However, she doesn't own it.
Yeah.
She buys the Hove flat and she's told this is the only property you're going to own. Therefore, you only pay 30 grand stamp duty, not 70 grand. She could have said, it's not going to look right, because although I don't own Ashton anymore, it's gone to my son, I'm his main carer. That's a connection. And also, I've told everyone that's where I live.
But if you're told by your solicitor you don't have to pay it...
This thing of believing lawyers.
I can't pay extra tax that I don't know.
Yeah.
So...
All right. I mean, lawyers get it wrong.
And they
all the time.
Did. But you've got, what do we have to go to a lawyer and then go to another lawyer to check the first lawyer's advice? At what point do we say this was the advice? I'm not going to take it. I'm going to go somewhere else.
What's interesting is that, as you rightly say, nearly every caller has sort of skipped the detail of the Ashton House because basically this is about fraud, corruption, whatever, and that may not be fair. So have we talked to Denise yet in Berkshire? Hi, Denise. Sorry, we were speaking. No, you haven't been on yet. Hi.
Hi.
Oh, Denise is done. I'm so sorry, Denise. Thank you. Sam in Hampshire, hi.
Hi, thanks for having me on the show. I don't think Rayner should be sacked because I was given similar advice.
Okay, tell us.
I attended a seminar given by a disability charity on setting up a trust for a disabled child. And I haven't got any further with that because I need to find out other details. But I was led to believe that once you transfer your house into that trust, whether you are living there, whether you are dead, whatever, that house is no longer yours. So if in my dotage, if I'm taken into a care home, the local authority won't be able to make me sell my house so that it's here so my son can live here and someone else can care for him.
I'm not totally convinced. I mean, again, we've got different lawyers saying different things. But I know if I was to pass my house to my kids and then live in it, I would be clobbered by inheritance tax because no one is falling for that. No one. You know, this thing of, oh, it's not my house anymore, it's my kids, but I live there. No, that doesn't work. There's some people trousering money for tax advice around here. That's a whole other story. We've got some seriously weird tax advice in this country. Okay, we could go on and on about Angela Rayner. We'll give you a break on that now, Carolyn. Okay, thank you for your calls. Matt, all right, we'll take more of your calls on his show. And